This episode of the Crack House Chronicles is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist.
You can start communicating in under 48 hours. This is not a crisis line or a self-help line. It's professional counseling done securely online.
Now, Dale, this is a broad range of expertise that is available, which may not be locally available in many areas.
Yeah, this service is available for clients worldwide.
Worldwide?
Worldwide.
Worldwide. And you can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You'll get a timely and thoughtful response, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you don't have to worry about sitting in an uncomfortable waiting room and waiting on a traditional therapist.
Yeah, which is really good in this time. You don't really want to go and sit in the waiting room with a bunch of people with the stuff going on that's going on today.
Sit there with a mask on and, yeah,
it's no good. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches. And if you don't like your counselor, it's pretty easy to change.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
It's more affordable than traditional online counseling, and financial aid is available.
That's always good right there.
That's awesome. Yeah. And BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today.
That's right. So visit their website and read the testimonials. They're posted there daily.
All right, Dale. Visit BetterHelp.com/CHC. That's better, HELP. And you can join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional.
That's right. In fact, so many people are using it now, they're actually recruiting counselors in all 50 states. So a special offer for our listeners, you can get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/CHC. You got to use the code word betterhelp.com/CHC.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles. I am Donnie, your host, and with me is a man that says that if you were born in November, then your parents probably had a pretty good Valentine's Day.
You damn right.
It's Dale.
Because I was born in November.
There you go. Your mom and dad.
I'm living proof of this. Knocking it down.
There you go, bud. I'm telling you.
Woo. What's going on with you?
I'm rocking and rolling, man.
It's good.
Feeling good.
Kind of shitty outside, but other than that, it's all right.
Oh, yeah. We've had a couple beers and something to eat, so we're in good shape, man.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of the rain a while and knock us out.
We can't do this straight. We have to have a little buzz.
Yeah. Well, it's our usual thing.
Yeah.
Have something to eat and something to drink and
chill back. And
we just have a true crime good time, don't we?
That sounds like a plan.
That's right.
That sounds like something wrote on the bathroom wall.
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds like a song. Faster Pussycat.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they found on the bathroom.
That could have been. All right, bud. You got any shout-outs for us today?
Just a few. We want to give a shout-out to some of our Facebook friends. Shout-out to Jennifer Orcutt, Deborah Dingus, and Trella Williams.
Hey, shout-out to you ladies.
So we appreciate you jumping on there and commenting and stuff. That's always cool to have a little feedback from you guys, and man, it makes us feel good to be noticed.
Absolutely. We appreciate all of our listeners.
Yeah.
And we appreciate those that go on to the store page, all those people who like us on Facebook, that give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts.
Heck yeah.
We appreciate all of it.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't already, go on to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rate and review.
Please.
5-star.
5-star.
It really does help the show.
It does. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So much.
All right, Dale, we're going to get into our episode, man.
All right.
And we have a North Carolina case.
Imagine that.
Yep. And it is several years old.
Yeah.
From 1971.
1971.
Yep. And this is the case of Jesse McBane and Patricia Mann.
M-A-N-N.
Yep, M-A-N-N.
Yeah.
Double N. Now, Jesse, he was born Jesse Allen McBane on February the 15th, 1952, to parents Alan Newland McBane and Hilda Mae Glosson McBane.
He was almost a Valentine's baby, wasn't he?
Yep, and this was in Chatham County, North Carolina.
Chatham County.
Yep. And Patricia, she was born Patricia Ann Mann on February the 6th, 1951. She was born in Sanford, North Carolina. That's in Lee County. To parents William Fletcher Mann and Leela Mae Mann.
That's a lot to say.
Yeah.
Leela Mae Mann.
Leela Mae Mann. Man. All right.
Both February babies. How about that?
That's very, very cool. Now, Dale, our story takes place on February the 12th, 1971, the bulk of it.
Yeah.
And on this particular day, it was raining just like it is here today. Almost the same kind of weather.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. Isn't it?
It is kind of creepy. And this was when Jesse, who was 19 years old at the time, was going to meet his girlfriend, Patricia Mann, at her dormitory.
Right.
Now, Jesse was in North Carolina State University.
Yeah, he's a football player.
Yeah. Patricia, she was going to nursing school at Watts Hospital in Durham.
Right.
And
a very prestigious nursing academy.
Yes, it was very rigorous too, by the way.
3-year, what was it, 3-year deal, and you have to stay there the whole time, and it was really strict.
They had like lock-in time at night.
Yeah.
Where they had to study. They couldn't leave their dorm or anything.
They couldn't leave, and then it was like, 7 to 9 p.m. It was lock in, couldn't even go to the bathroom without getting in trouble.
No TV, no radio or anything.
Yeah, make you study.
Yep, it was pretty rigorous.
Crazy.
Yep, but like I said, she was going to nursing school there, and she was 20 years old at the time, just a year older than Jesse.
Right.
And this particular night, on February the 12th, 1971, it was around 11:30 p.m. Jesse and Patricia, they had left a dance that they had went to.
Right.
And what had happened was Jesse, him and his brother, they shared a vehicle.
Right.
And usually Jesse, he had it on Saturday nights, and his brother had it on Friday night.
Yeah.
But they worked out a deal where they could swap nights.
He said that he was at home yet in Pittsburgh, and he went home from NC State back to Pittsburgh, and he was hanging out, and he thought he was just going to be there, but his mother said that since she hadn't had a chance to make him a birthday cake, she was going to have his brother swap out nights so he could drive down to pick her up and surprise her and take her to that Valentine's dance they were having at the nursing home. So he was pretty thrilled about that.
Exactly. And he'd even left the box of candy that he had bought her.
Yeah, left it on the counter.
Yeah, he was so excited to be able to go and get her and take her to a dance. Very, very cool. I hate that, but still, that was young love.
Yeah, in my head, I can just see like Jethro going, hot dog.
Yeah.
Let him jump in the car.
But everything I read, Jesse and Patricia, I mean, they were pretty smitten for each other.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they just seemed like just a typical young American couple. Jesse, football player, and Patricia, nursing student.
Right.
So, and very much in love.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Now, this night at the dance, it was around 11:30 p.m., and Jesse and Patricia left the dance.
Slid on out.
Yeah, they just got out of there.
Now, usually at this nursing school, that the curfew is strictly at 11 p.m., but they had moved it back to 1 because of the dance.
Jesse walked Patricia back to her dormitory so she could sign out, but she had about 1 a.m. curfew.
Right.
Now, they took Jesse's car and drove it to what is present-day neighborhood Crowsdale.
Crowsdale.
Yeah, that's Croasdaile.
Yeah.
This neighborhood was being developed. It wasn't much there. It was just some roads and cul-de-sacs.
Right.
Wasn't no houses or anything. It was just under development.
Correct.
And it was kind of an unofficial lover's lane.
Well, it's called the Crowsdale Motel.
Good name.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much the lover's lane for nursing students.
Right.
And, anybody that wanted a long time with their boyfriend or girlfriend.
Right.
And it's pretty much an unwritten rule with the nurses that if a cul-de-sac was taken, you moved on.
Move on.
Yep.
Oh, nobody want no comment.
And somebody's in that room. Let's go on to the next one. And there were even a few couples, I guess some of the popular couples, that had their unofficial spot. And it was what they called theirs.
That's just greedy.
Claimed. Yeah. And other couples would just leave those open in case other couples just showed up.
I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, first come, first serve, yes, man.
I don't guess people park anymore, do they? Do they go parking?
I don't know. I'm old.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works anymore.
Probably not. They're texting video gaming.
Yeah.
They're texting about texting.
Yeah, I park at my house. Yeah, go in the house and close the blinds.
That's right.
Yep. Now, for Jesse and Patricia, her 1 a.m. curfew came and went.
Yep.
But Jesse and Patricia never came back. Saturday morning, Patricia's roommates got concerned because she had never broke curfew before.
Right. Just something she didn't do. She was very, very reliable. She didn't break rules.
Yep.
Everything was pretty much strictly by the book with her.
Very responsible young woman, even in her nursing studies.
Yeah, and I think even about 10 after 1 that the, what do you call it, the house lady or whatever was in the dorm had come by to check, and nobody had seen her. And by 1:30 in the morning, they were already thinking, what the hell's going on? Because she just don't do this.
And even Jesse, by all accounts, he was a good guy who wouldn't pressure Patricia into doing anything against her moral code or even skipping curfew.
Right.
So, they were just pretty much two kids by the book.
Just really good kids.
Yep. And Patricia's roommates, they started calling hospitals, even thinking it might have been a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
They filed a report with the Durham County Police Department.
Who said they weren't going to do anything?
Yeah, they said you had to wait 48 hours.
Yeah, I heard one was 48, one was 24. So, but it said that unless there was like some kind of proof of that something had happened, then they didn't do anything for 48 hours.
Yeah, and they were just pretty much playing it off. Say, hey, they might have eloped.
Yeah, or just went off and doing whatever they were doing. And
yeah.
But anyway, they said no, they didn't. They definitely weren't going off eloping because they already had permission to get married anytime they wanted to. So definitely wasn't that. But how the police were just blowing it off.
Yeah.
This seems to happen a good bit, doesn't it?
Or even just, I think they even told them that they were just caught up in the Valentines moment and just forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, just, like you said, just playing it off. Her roommates, they decided to go look for them. And they hit all the usual spots that what they called Lover's Lane.
Right.
And that's where they would find Jesse's car parked in one of the empty cul-de-sacs.
Yep.
They had their coats were in the back seat, but nothing was out of shape or anything, and there were no signs of a struggle, and the car was locked.
Yeah, but they had those little triangular vent windows. They don't have them anymore, but they could push it in and then open the door.
Yeah.
They reach in and unlock the car.
Yep.
Yep. So they could see what was going on in there.
But Jesse and Patricia were nowhere to be found.
Nope.
When the families of Jesse and Patricia were aware of their children missing, the local police department finally acted and filed a missing persons report. And investigators started by working off the idea that, like I said, Jesse and Patricia had eloped and skipped town. I guess like they had told them, when they went to report them the first time. But within a day or two, it became clear that the investigators that something wasn't right with the case.
Well, hell, it ain't skip town. They do walk.
Yeah. They were out there in the cul-de-sac.
I'm going to lock my car up and we're going to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's stupid anyway.
Mm-hmm.
My point of view.
Yep. And a woman by the name of Carolyn Spivey, this was Patricia's cousin.
And best friend.
Yep. They grew up next door to each other and were pretty close friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, like you said. And Spivey even said that she got the sickest feeling in her stomach that something terrible happened.
Yep.
And for nearly 2 weeks, police and search parties made up of concerned locals worked the area. Investigators followed up with every lead, but came up empty.
Yeah, and coincidentally, Carolyn had said that really the only reason she was at nursing school was because of her, because they always done everything together their whole lives. And originally, Patricia was going to be a teacher. Carolyn was going to go to nursing school. But then once they got about ready to start applying for schools, Pat decided that she didn't want to go separate from Carolyn, and they both applied to nursing school. And then Carolyn didn't get accepted, but Pat did. So that's why she was there to begin with. So it's kind of odd how everything comes together there.
Yep. On February the 25th of 1971, this was 12 days after they went missing, a surveyor was working in a heavily wooded area. It's always a wooded area. It's not a forest or anything. It's just a wooded area. Yeah. They came across a one-lane dirt road and what he thought was pieces of a mannequin and a leg sticking out of some leaves and debris. And when he got closer, he realized that it was a human body.
Right. Now, they did say this guy's been doing surveying. He was doing it for the government, I think. But he'd been doing it for years and years and had seen almost anything you could think of in the woods, including mannequins. So, because I thought that was kind of weird that he would go straight to mannequin. But
but I guess you're in the woods all the time. You probably see a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And police were immediately called.
Yep. Yeah, I think there was a trailer park nearby, and he went back up to the first trailer and beat on the door and told them to call police.
Yeah.
Because, when there was cell phones in 1971.
Mm-hmm. And they worked the scene, and by the end of the day, Jesse McBane and Patricia Mann were officially identified.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets pretty twisted, Dale. They discovered that Jesse and Patricia had been tied to a tree, and their backs to the bark and their hands tied backwards with a thick rope. Mm. It looked like a hemp rope. And there was rope around their heads and necks, looked like it had been pretty secured to the tree.
Yeah.
And their bodies had slumped forward and down, leaving them side by side and partially covered by leaves.
Yeah, and even said that the rope around her neck looked like it had at some time been really tightened and then loosened and then tightened.
Almost like a torture.
Yeah. So I guess it was several different ligature marks.
Mm-hmm. And Jesse was still wearing his class ring and watch. So the police determined that it wasn't about robbery at all.
Yeah, and she still had on her promise ring, with the little diamond and everything, and there was no signs of a sexual assault on either person.
Mm-mm.
It was just fully clothed, everything.
It was just a torture and kill.
Right.
Pretty much what they determined it to be.
Yeah, it said she did have one internal injury where I thought maybe she had been punched hard, maybe kicked or stomped or something. And then
that was on her liver, I think.
Yeah. And then there was also said that there were several little superficial, like, little places where they were jabbed, looked like maybe an ice pick or something. But
Mm-hmm.
they were speculating that maybe that was done just to see that they were deceased.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to leave them alive. Whoever done this.
Mm-hmm. And like we said, the area where Jesse and Patricia had been found was a quarter mile into the woods and was very secluded.
Yeah, but it's about when they was found, it was about 3 miles from Lover Lane, though.
And this area, they said, was pretty much scattered and littered with cigarette butts and beer bottles. That's where people went to drink and smoke and pretty much just have a good time.
Yeah, that was a great time.
Mm-hmm. And this area is located right between Orange County and Durham.
Yeah, it's about a mile, I think,
And
from the border or something. So that's one of the problems, where jurisdiction problem.
yeah,
That's probably why they really never solved this thing at the beginning.
yeah, because they were fighting over, I guess, like you said, jurisdiction.
Yeah, who's going to get the glory?
Yep.
Nobody.
And there was a detective by the name of Tim Horn, and he pretty much said that there was a lack of collaboration between the units.
Yeah.
And law enforcement agencies at the time, and everybody individually just worked on the case.
Yeah.
There was no team or task force,
Mm-mm.
and it didn't catch a whole lot of attention or traction.
Nope. It was all between Orange County and Durham County and even the SBI, and they were all pretty much hardly anyone was share their information, which is pretty sad, really.
And probably a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, that Horn fella he was talking about, he picked this up way later, like 2010, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and started going back through it, and then that's when he found out all this stuff that was going on or lack thereof.
On the night that Jesse and Patricia went missing, there was a phone call come into the hospital of somebody pretending to be his father.
Yeah, but it wasn't him.
Nope.
Yeah,
His father said he didn't make the phone call to the emergency room or the hospital looking for his son.
that's kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm, very creepy. And through all this chaos, there were several suspects that picked out, and some were cleared by polygraph tests and others failed.
Hmm.
And one in particular was a doctor at Watts Hospital who worked with Patricia.
Hmm.
And he repeatedly refused to cooperate with law enforcement, made him more suspicious.
Well, I guess so.
Yep. And this doctor was focused in 1971, and even Horn says that he's still the focus today.
Hmm. I know there was like two or three suspects that they had, but he really stands out. This Dr. Britt.
Yeah, and even to this day, Dale, the doctor has repeatedly refused to cooperate with the authorities. And I think he even lawyered up and wouldn't even take a polygraph.
Yeah, well, they dropped in on him, and all this is way later, all this stuff, because I don't know what went on back in the 70s, but when he reopened the case in 2010, it was kind of weird how it come about. Some lady had called him from, they were doing the show, North Carolina's Most Wanted, and was talking to him about it, and then it got him to thinking about it, and then I think that show lost funding. But then later he went to go. They were one of the old jails, and they had decided they were going to make an office in one of the places, and they wanted him and another guy to go and check out the room and see what was over there. And he walked in, and there was just case files, those boxes sitting everywhere. So the room was full of them, and some of them had like an inch of dust on them. And he walked over to this one that was right in the center, and the lid was off of it. And he walked up to it, and it was this case. Mm-hmm. So it was like it was meant for him to do, So he said that that's how all this got started. And he opened it and started going through it and stuff, and then he went to the sheriff and asked him if he could reopen this case because it's such a double homicide, and it was never solved. Mm-hmm. So that's how he got back into doing all this.
Yep. And like Dale said, no one's ever been charged with this crime, but there pretty much remains a possibility that the Orange County Sheriff's Office could eventually catch a break.
Yeah, and what we're saying is, that doctor, he's the only one of I think they had like 3 different suspects that were top of the list in those files he found, but only one was living, and that's that Dr. Brett. Him and another lady who was a investigator, they decided one day, what the hell, they just cold stopped in and knocked on the door and walked in and talked to him. And they were talking to him and stuff and started questioning stuff and said he got really extremely nervous and fidgety and stuff. And he actually got so weirded out that he had to excuse himself from the room and got up and walked out. And then they said the police got really nervous because this guy's always known to carry a gun, and he had already been questions about pulling a gun on some hitchhikers and stuff, even though he is a doctor. But when he came back, everything was cool. And he's like, yeah, and he gave him his card and said he'd be glad to help any way he could, and he would give him DNA, and he would come down and do a polygraph. All they had to do was call, and everything would be fine. Mm-hmm. So they said, okay, great. And they went and got in the car and left and said he got about 3 minutes down the road, and the guy's lawyer called and said there would be no more interviews, no polygraph, no DNA, nothing. Any questions, you call the lawyer. So
Yeah.
that quick, yeah.
He shut that down, didn't he?
Yeah. So that don't look...
It don't make him look good at all.
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and this guy was known to have a pretty hot temper. And the hitchhiker thing, some guy said that when he was younger, he was hitchhiking, and he always hitchhiked, even though, it was just one of them things back in the 70s. And he said, we were young, teenagers, and cars would go by, if it didn't stop, on this particular day, they were just feeling froggy and started just flipping off cars and cussing them if they didn't stop. And the car slammed on brakes and backed up, and the guy jumped out and had a gun. And he said that his friend, the hitchhiker guy's friend, had a big buck knife and had pulled his knife out. And he said he jumped in between them, and the guy kind of got weirded out because these kids weren't listening to him even though he had a gun. Mm. He said he was a cop, and he told him to get in the car. And he said, well, he thought that was weird too, so what the hell. So they left, and the guy left because they weren't listening. So they went straight into a payphone and called because they was going to call and report that the cop, was doing this to him. They was smart enough to get his license plate and the car make and model. And when they called, they said that's not a police officer. So he was impersonating a cop, but it was definitely that doctor had done it. Mm-hmm. But then later he denied it was him. He said it was his car, but it wasn't him.
Wow.
So he's got a background already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't look very good for him at all.
No.
Mm-mm. And there's some theories that, it could have been more than one person that done this.
Yeah. I kind of like that because, there was another guy, his last name was Ray, and he's pretty sketchy. He had been around, and done a lot of stuff, and he had a long criminal background, and his jobs, he was like a fry cook and just,
little odd jobs.
Yeah, odd jobs and stuff. And him and this doctor, they crossed paths here and there. And even one time, he was an orderly at Watts at the same time that Pat was there, and this doctor was teaching some classes there. So they had a chance of crossing paths there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, later, when this guy got out of prison for something, I forget what it was in there for at this time, he got out. The good doctor gave him a job working as a lab tech in his practice, even though he really didn't know what he's doing. So it's kind of weird to me that they would have that kind of camaraderie, mm-hmm. and not have something going on. So that Ray guy was one of the 3 suspects. I mean, he's passed away now, but to me, thinking going on, I'm thinking, it's, with Jesse being as big as he was,
6'2",
a 6'2", which he's smaller than me, put it that way. But anyway.
Football player.
Yeah, in 1971, 6'2" guy is pretty huge, I think.
Yeah.
And nobody had no signs of struggle, no nothing. I'm sure. So it was either guns involved or there were 2 guys or 2 people. It's kind of strange that would be one person could wrangle up a couple and tie them up like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange to me.
Yeah, but you were talking off the air a little bit ago, and you said if it was one person, then maybe he was able to get a hold of Patricia and use her as leverage against Jesse.
And that could happen, especially with her having an internal injury. He might have gut punched her or kicked her or something, and he's like, well, we'll just do what you want to do.
Yeah. Or I'll hurt her more.
Don't hurt her, yeah. That kind of thing. So, especially with them 2 being really good kids, I don't know. They just kind of want to just do what you're told.
It just seems like me that night on Lover's Lane, somebody was stalking out that site they were parked.
Yeah,
just waiting for somebody just to.
Yeah, well, but what the hell is the motive? They didn't take anything. I mean, his wallet was still there. What was that, $4.63 in his wallet? They had their rings. They didn't take no clothes.
No sexual assault.
No sexual assault.
Just torture, man.
Tie them up and strangle them.
Meanness.
And then leave them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And I forget, there was another suspect who was another doctor, but I think they kind of ruled him out later in this later investigation from mostly being a pathological liar about. You know, said he did have a mean streak and he did have some priors, you know, some violence and beating up women and some stuff like that. But he always liked to talk big and put himself into situations, and some people knew that he definitely was lying about. So they kind of blew him off on this one too, is not being at this one either.
Mm-hmm.
So really, to me, this Britt guy really stands out, and then possibly if that Ray fella helped him, but you know it's possible to do it with one person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, FBI profiler said it was one person, which you know most of the locals had really thought it was going to be two, like we were thinking.
Yeah,
you know, me and him, because they always talked about Jesse being big and then so strong. You know, way stronger than average.
Yeah. Now, a lot of the stuff that they recovered at the murder scene was preserved and protected, and the rope that was used to tie them to the tree was preserved.
Yeah.
And they claim today that they have a system to be able to extract DNA off of that rope.
If there's any on there.
If there's any left. And it's you know, we made fun of this off the air. You know, we'd heard somebody call it an HVAC system, but it's actually an MVAC system.
Right.
And it claims that they can extract DNA from difficult places, such as inside of knots that were even used to tie them up with.
Yeah, so it could be there.
And it's basically an industrial type carpet cleaner. And what it does, it sprays a solution out, and that fluid is captured and condensed down into a filter. And then all the DNA profiles on that have to be extrapolated. And there are only 80 MVAC machines that exist in the world, and 40 of them are in the United States. And pretty much, fortunately for the local investigators, Guilford County, which is North Carolina, that's Greensboro area.
Greensboro, yeah.
They recently received a new MVAC system. So, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
It's very possible they could extract some DNA off of that.
It'd be nice if they could find out, because I think they do have DNA samples from all three.
Yeah.
They, I know the one Ray fellow that died, they found his son, which is, he didn't ever really have much of a relationship with his dad, but they did find him. He had come across his dad. He had come to him out of the blue for a couple of weeks or whatever. But anyway, they talking to him, and he gave up a DNA. You know, he said anything I can do to help. You know, either clear my dad's name or, you know, help out the family, whatever. So he gave him his. So you know that would be a link. And then the other guy, I don't know, they've got his, but I'm not sure how. But then it was kind of funny. The Dr. Britt guy, they got his DNA from a local restaurant. That he was known to go to a barbecue place there in Durham, and he said that he would frequent there a good bit. So they went and talked to the owners, and they all agreed. So next time he came in, they had one person work his table, you know, with the tea and the cups and the plate and everything, and then they called him and told him he was there. And then once he got done with his meal, they left the table set, and the agents come in and cleaned up and took the fork, the plate, and took everything and took it with them, and said he didn't need consent for that because it's basically like trash. Yeah. And then as long as the owner didn't mind, they could take it.
Yep.
So they've got everybody's DNA. They just got to find, hopefully, you know, enough somewhere else to compare it to.
Yeah.
You know,
a relative or somebody to be able to cross-reference that to.
Yeah, or something in the evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they got his DNA right there.
Oh, yeah.
So all they need, if anything's on that rope, it'd be the only place you probably could find it at this point. And if he wore gloves, then it won't be there either.
Yeah, but chances of them wearing gloves back then, you know, it may have been cold that night, but you know, I don't see him wearing gloves.
Right. Well, it's possible if he's a doctor, he might be smart enough to do it.
That's true.
So you know, you never know.
Very true. But anyway, that's the condensed version of Jesse McBain and Patricia Mann. Now, there is a full podcast on this.
Oh, it's way more.
It's 8 hours. It is called The Long Dance.
And it's very, very good.
A lot of interviews with family, friends, people who knew Jesse and Patricia very well.
Some investigators or one or two that are living, that they found are on there.
Yep.
Even the interview with Dr. Britt is on there.
Yeah, go and check it out. It's called The Long Dance.
Yep, it's very good.
Yep. All right, Dale, you got any last words?
No, I don't think so. I know this is a short episode, but we wanted to get one out, and this is a pretty intriguing story, and it was around the Valentine's Day thing, and it's a local for us, and it's pretty intriguing. And like I said, do go check out the other one. They did a lot of work. It's almost a two-year effort that they put into it, and it's really good. So, other than that, we got some cool stuff coming up. We won't tell you about yet, but stay tuned. It's gonna be some good stuff.
That's it. All right, Dale, we're going to get out of here.
All right, brother.
We want everyone to be safe, be careful, and always be aware of your surroundings on Lover's Lane.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.